Hey guys, welcome back. So, this is my first impressions of the L-39 Albatros. Looking at the default map, under Instant Action, you've got Cold Start, Free Flight, Rocket Practice, Air-to-Air Practice, Takeoff, Intercept, and Ground Strike. Under the Nevada map, you've got Cold Start, Takeoff, Free Flight, Intercept, Column Attack, Camp Attack, and Chopper Intercept. Normandy brings 4 missions: Cold Start, Free Flight, Landing, and Weapons Practice, and the Persian Gulf gives you Cold Start, Takeoff, Free Flight, Intercept, Camp Attack, and Dogfight. Gotta admit, that's pretty impressive. It's rare that you find a module that gives you that many missions for all of the maps, so I think that's pretty cool. Let's look at the missions under single player missions for this. And L-39, Emergency CAS, Mountain Flying, 1 pass, and Visual Navigation. 4 missions just for the Caucasus map. Let's take a look and see if it has a campaign. And I don't believe it does. Take a look at training. Let's see what they have to offer under the training heading. L-39. Oh, surprisingly, there's a nice variety of missions here. Startup, taxi, and takeoff. Circling the pattern, flight radio navigation, rocket pods, bombs, air-to-air missiles, gun, and then the PK-3 gun pods. That's pretty cool. Let's jump in and take a look at the free flight and see what that's all about. Alrighty, let's take a look around in the L-39 cockpit and see what this looks like. I'm going to hit my active pause so I don't go dropping out of the sky like a sack of potatoes. That's something interesting. It's definitely in a different language, and I want to say it's Russian or Cyrillic, but I'm not entirely sure. That's what it looks like to me at a glance, but I'm no dialect expert. I don't know a lot about this plane, to be honest. So one of the things I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to go in and I'm going to go under Special, under the options, and see if there's an English cockpit for this. Because that is the first thing that's going to help you get a little bit more familiar with this thing a little bit quicker, because you know, none of this stuff seems to make any sense other than altitude and knots. You know, these 2 gauges over here and then that gauge right there. You know, some of this stuff makes sense because there's commonality across the board, but some stuff just doesn't make sense as well. And it helps to be able to read what you have in the cockpit. But in terms of detail, it doesn't look bad, but it's not wowing me either. You know, it's a very, I don't know, simplistic cockpit. And for DCS standards, it looks good, but maybe not great. But again, it's also an aircraft I've never heard of, so I don't know what to compare it to other than the other DCS cockpits. And like I said, it doesn't look terrible by any means, but doesn't look as good as, say, I don't know, the F-18 or the JF-17, or definitely not as good as the Tomcat. Let's come out of active pause, and let's give it a little bit of gas and see what she can do. Looks like she wants to fight back a little bit. Oh, I like that. I don't know if you can hear that. G effects and the negative G. I like that thundering in your ears. Pretty cool. It seems to fly well. Doesn't seem anything out of the ordinary. It seems like a jet. Oh, the rudder authority is really touchy. Holy crap. Let's take a look at it externally now. It's an interesting skin. Kind of reminds you of an F5 a little bit. Now I'm going to tap these rudders. Wow. That has a dramatic effect on this plane. Just let off the pedals and let it settle a little bit. It's interesting. Pick up some speed. And let's see how much of a dramatic effect that has on the rudder pedals. Yep, still pretty dramatic. I would think the faster you go, the less effective that would be. So this thing isn't super fast. It's not slow either. Looks like I'm going, what, about 400 knots? So this thing doesn't appear to be super fast, but it's cruising along. Looks like I'm hitting almost 400 knots there. Take a look outside again. Hey, there's my favorite F4 view over the shoulder. But yeah, those rudder pedals really have a dramatic effect on the yaw. Kind of not used to that in jets. That's interesting too. I went to kind of do a quick roll, and it sort of stopped me for a second, so it doesn't have a very fast roll rate by looking at things here. I am no expert on planes in general, but this bird seems to fly a little strange to me, compared to what I'm used to at least. But again, it doesn't look like it breaks 400 knots very often. Not sure what I think about it yet. You can definitely pull some G's pretty fast. It seems to turn rather well. But again, when I went to go roll earlier, it seemed to be, I don't know, a little bit strange. Just does not seem very fast. Nice little train going by down there. Picking up a little bit of speed again. It's an interesting looking plane. Single engine. Doesn't seem to have any form of afterburner. Let's jump back into the cockpit. Now, this is a two-seater, so let's jump into the other seat. And here, and hit active pause again, is the other seat. A little bit different. I like how with Track IR I can really zoom in and look under things sometimes too. And I have complete control from this seat as well. Looks like I've almost got a lot of the same devices in the back seat cockpit wise as I do in the front seat, although some things look different, like this panel right here. Not quite sure what that's all about. back to flying. Actually looks a little bit nicer from this seat, sitting back a little ways. This is just one of them planes that you just don't hear a lot about. So looking under special for the L-39, there's only a handful of options. One is gun camera mode only for tracks, off, on, or dismounted. SARP mode, not sure what that is, off, only for tracks, or on. And then customized cockpit, default English, customized cockpit ZA, default English. I would imagine this means maybe front seat, back seat, not sure. I'm going to turn those on. And then I'm going to jump back in here, and we'll take a look at the cockpit over again and see what it looks like. And I have a feeling it should be a little easier to define and figure out. Okay, here we are back in the cockpit of the L-39. And I'm going to hit active pause again. And now, as I look about the cockpit, things are starting to make a little bit more sense. So, fire, SIG, test, and then 2. That's weird, so it seems you can only hold it and then it comes back down. Not sure what that is. Emergency jettison. That must be my possibility of a master arm, maybe. Look around over here now. Okay, de-icing, battery, wing tanks. Yeah, things are making a little bit more sense. Air conditioning and lights panel. Landing gear, emergency controls. What do we got over here now? Radio controls. Okay. Yeah, makes a little bit more sense now, doesn't it? Let's hit our active pause. And I'm going to pause again, and we're going to jump into the back seat now. Let's see if what's back here makes a little bit more sense now. Not sure what these are all about. GMK and ARK. Oh, there's a pedal adjustment. That's interesting. Doesn't seem to do anything, but I'd imagine it would have something to do with adjusting the pedals, maybe for a short or a tall person. And a lot of the same controls that you have in the front are just repeated here in the back. Radio controls again. Nice. So now it makes a little bit more sense to me. Like I said, it's a nice cockpit. It's not, it's not wowing me, but it's not terrible by any means. Very simplistic. Seems the roll rate could be a little better, but I don't know. Maybe it is just fine and it's just me. Wouldn't be the first time, right? I'll jump back into the front seat. actually sounded like the engine spooling down a little bit. Did I break this thing? It's that weird little thing underneath. Do you see that? There's a little tiny fan underneath. What the hell is that for? Is that the emergency backup jet? Like I said, I don't know a damn thing about this plane. This is just one of the few obscure jets that they decided to model in DCS for God knows why. Yeah, I've definitely killed the jet on this thing just by maneuvering, so this definitely has some kind of thing going on with it, like the MiG-21. Not sure what I did, but, you know. Not surprised either. I tend to ham-fist the stick sometimes and do what I want with it, just to try and see what I can pull off, so. Let's take a look at some of the other capabilities. Alright guys, this is the weapons practice run with rockets, I suppose. So it looks like there's a gun safety switch I had to hit. Once I armed or used the gun safety switch, then I was able to fire. So I'm not entirely sure how we fire these things other than the trigger here. And the fucking engine died on this thing again. What the hell? Alright, here we go again. So, I've been knocking the engine out on this thing and not entirely sure how or why I'm doing it, but I am. So, I'm going to try to get moving this time. Got some targets up ahead by that smoke. There is a gun safety switch to hit that basically is the master arm for this thing, I suppose. And I have rockets armed at the moment. And of course I can't hit anything. What do we got down there? Okay, I got some targets there too. So there is the fixed. And then if I hit it again, or no, that's the fixed, this is the gyro. Okay. Getting the hang of this. Doesn't seem to be ideally set up for rockets right off the bat. And I hit absolutely nothing. Good job. Looks pretty menacing. It's got some pretty cool looking pods there, huh? Yeah, clearly this thing doesn't have an internal gun on it. I'm going to hit it again and go to the fixed sight. Let's see if I can do any better with this fixed sight. Looks like I have to aim it up a little. And I've hit nothing again. This is very difficult to hit things with. Oh my god, I hit something. I had to go super low to do it, though. Actually, I did hit a couple things. I don't know why the on-screen isn't coming up that tells you you've done damage to something. So I actually am hitting things. Interesting. I don't know why that's not popping up. Normally you get that cue on the screen that says, you know, damage so much %. Oh, there we go. Right there. M818. And there we go. Did some damage. Imagine that. And destroyed. That's a little better. Just going to take a little bit of practice with this guy. So yeah, this thing doesn't have an internal gun. That kind of sucks. Kind of cries out to me as 60s technology. Kind of like the F4. What do we need a gun for? It's all missiles now. Alright, the L-39 Albatros. What do I think? I don't like it. I just don't like it. To me, it just doesn't seem to have enough power for a modern jet. You know, it looks like 60s technology again. It was designed, well, what makes me think that is it was designed without an internal gun, so you've got to put gun pods on it like the background shows here. And I don't know, man. Why do we need trainers in DCS world? You know what I mean? These two-seat planes don't make a lot of sense to me. I could see a two-seater in the sense of the Tomcat, you know. There's a workload for the guy in the back seat to actually do, and there's a purpose for having that second seat. Or an F-15E Strike Eagle, that makes sense. But like a two-seater like this, or like that Yak, you know, I just not seeing it. Maybe it's just me. It's a personal thing. I just don't like it. I don't think it has enough power. I think it's very difficult to maneuver in a dogfight. I tried the dogfight scenario and failed miserably. Maybe I'm just used to better jets, you know. This one just doesn't seem to do it for me. I've knocked the engine out on it a few times too, so it's one of them ones that just are very temperamental. And I know a lot of people were like, oh, well, you gotta learn it, and you gotta, you know, learn to fly it within its, you know, capabilities, like the MiG-21. Personally, I don't like that shit. I don't want to have to fight against the plane. I want to use the plane to get the mission done. I want to blow things up and kill people in the air, man. I don't want to, you know, have to baby something. You know what I mean? If that makes any sense. So I just don't find this plane very appealing at all. And I don't see the purpose of it. So there's that. I think it's neat that DCS allows a platform for people to build modules and plug into their world. But man, some of these modules that they have in DCS just don't make very much sense to me. And I don't know who would want to pay money for them. You know, this is definitely one of them. So that's just me. I don't know that everything there is to know about this. I'll be the first to tell you that. But just, you know, jumping in, flying, shooting rockets, trying to drop bombs, trying to kill somebody in the air. It's just not intuitive. It's just not a fun plane for me to utilize, that's all. And others may feel otherwise. I'm sure somebody loves this plane, probably the people who built it, but not me. Definitely not my cup of tea. So that is the L-39 Albatros, first impressions. And the sad part is I appreciate that they've made a nice background, they've made unique music for it. They give you a nice variety of content in terms of the instant action missions. These are all things I complain about in other modules when they don't do it, you know. So it's got a lot going for it in that respect, but just I don't see any fun in it, man. You know, like, why would I want this when I can get an F5? You know what I mean? Like, to me, it seems like the F5 is the better option. And more intuitive cockpit design, you know? It's just, again, maybe it's just me. But that is the L-39 Albatros. As always, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. Feel free to hit that like button. And until next time, guys.